welcome. It is time once again for CU Immigration here on WRFU LP Urbana 104.5 FM. I will be your host for this evening. My name is Mr. Garza, and I am here to let you know that WRFU is an open forum for the Urbana-Champaign community, that views expressed are those of the speakers and are not intended to represent WRFU, UC IMC, or the Urbana Socialist Forum, or, as we like to say on the TV version of this show, UPTV. These views are our own, and by our, in this instance, I mean myself and my two charming guests who will introduce themselves as right now.
I'm Sarah Wakeland. I'm a student at the University of Illinois, senior in urban planning.
And my name is Alejandro Campos, and I am also a student, senior in urban planning.
Aha, welcome. It seems kind of like I've talked to some students from urban planning before. I don't know, maybe it's my imagination, but I have this feeling that I've spoken to some urban planning students. But welcome.
Thank you.
Nevertheless, are you... is this like what year is this? I guess I'm confused. Like, how does this work? Like, is this a senior?
Well, this class, since the urban planning department is pretty small, a lot of the upper level classes are open to juniors and seniors, and then also grad students. So you may have spoken with some graduate students previously, and a lot of the upper level classes are mixed. So.
Ah, okay. And you guys are seniors.
Yeah.
Seniors. Okay. I'm getting better at this.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to tell. You can't tell by looking at somebody like a senior or junior.
Yeah.
Unless they look like they're about 12, or they look like they're about 40, in which case maybe they're just going back to school, so maybe they're freshmen. Who knows?
Yeah.
Anyway, urban planning. So why is it that urban planners are so cool overall?
Well, I think it's because we handle a lot of different problems, but we don't ever... we don't directly, a lot of the time, get the blame. So I think that's why we seem pretty cool a lot of the time.
I feel like we work a lot together.
Yeah.
Like the ins and outs of working with people.
Is it a collaborative, I mean, let's say, assuming you graduate, you go on and get jobs, is it a collaborative type job? Or is it your solo urban planners scattered around the world doing your planning thing? Or do you work with other urban planners throughout your career?
So for the most part, you work with a group of urban planners, and it's not only restricted to urban planners. I know for a fact it's engineers sometimes. And I know here at CRP it's about 4 urban plannings, and then they have like their internships, and they just have different departments.
Yeah, a lot of times you'll work with, the public safety, public health, public works department of a city, or also with architects or landscape architects, or like you said, a lot of times civil engineering, which gets into the more technical part of urban planning.
So it's part of the gig, as the hep cats or whoever it is. That's an old jazz term, gig?
Yeah.
Yeah, gig, yeah. Okay, I'm dating myself. It's part of the job then to work with other people and to be collaborative and to have that kind of group mentality. I don't know how you put it. So obviously immigration is the theme of our show here, and one of the reasons that we've had so many urban planning department people, I guess it would be a way of putting it, on lately is that you guys are actually doing a project related to immigration. And can you briefly describe what that is? Either of you?
Yeah, we're doing a semester-long project on immigrant-owned businesses throughout Urbana. So we each have a geographical part of Urbana, the North Cunningham area or the downtown area, and we've been surveying and speaking with business owners about their experiences being an immigrant business owner and sort of the process that they've gone through with that and how they view the climate throughout the community.
That actually sounds kind of interesting. Like, I can imagine a lot of projects being very dull and sort of like, oh, we're going to compile statistics about blah, 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 But this sounds kind of interesting because you would be talking to individual people and getting feedback on this sort of thing. Is this a topic that's of interest to you particularly, or just it's what you're assigned and that's what you're doing?
Well, I'm guessing the class is community development. I guess the immigration topics are going to be present. So I guess for the most part, I can say, immigration is just really prevalent here in the United States now. So it's important that we discuss it, because it's not something that's just going to be pushed away.
And especially if we do grow on, to be public or private sector planners, it is something that we need to be able to study and have, some sort of quantitative data about, since it is, such a polarizing topic, I guess, throughout like large-scale media and political parties and everything. So,
do you see like a reason? How can I put this? Do you see something about the topic itself that lends itself to be polarizing, or do you think it's something that somebody seized on and it seemed like a good gimmick? Because it seems like over the years, it returns over and over again, and in different countries around the world are having the same kind of problem. But then for those of us who actually work with immigrants and work on the topic of immigration, there's nothing weird or scary about it. So I can't quite, it's hard for me, I guess, to grasp how someone sees this as a threat.
I definitely think it's one of the easiest, scapegoating opportunities for anyone in politics to make.
So it's kind of, when times are hard, blame someone that's different from you, who's not. It's easy because you don't know them and they're a little hard to know kind of thing.
That's been going on since the beginning of time, I guess. So.
And then you have like the pros and cons about immigration, whether like what light is shined on, I guess. So what's put more of importance. And over the past we've seen more cons than pros.
So in this instance, the project you're doing, you're talking to business owners, so obviously these people aren't stealing jobs from hardworking Americans. They're just looking for a break. Would you say roughly, percentage-wise, and this is just right off the top of your head, of all the people you've interviewed, how many of them employ other people?
100% of them.
All of them? Yeah.
All of them.
So these are job creators, not job stealers, really.
Absolutely.
Do they, I guess, would you have any way of knowing if the people they're hiring are also fellow immigrants or other,
I think
local
we've
people?
gotten a mix. A lot of them do have immigrant employees, but some of them don't. And then that also goes into, what their business is and if that's catering toward a broader audience or to an immigrant audience as well.
Yeah, that's really interesting to me. It's just an interesting topic overall, partly because it's the kind of work that I do, but also because I'm interested in all the different ways people look at this topic and kind of don't seem to understand it. So it's good to get that kind of information because it helps me realize anyway what actually is happening versus what people are screaming about on the news, on the nightly news. That's very interesting. So have you run across anything that's happened in your process so far that's surprised you? Like, wow, I had no idea that was the case or that was happening or anything like that?
Well, I think that I've spoken to some business owners and they said that they've been in the community going on 10 years and that they still don't necessarily feel embraced, which I think is very strange, especially if you are a business owner. You clearly have some type of capital or some type of social, social community that's, supporting you throughout owning a business. So I think that there is some sort of disconnect here in the community between immigrants and the broader community, and I think that's very interesting because I would think that if you were owning a business that you would feel fairly well adjusted and included. So
embraced by the community as a whole?
And the city officials.
See, I wonder how you'd quantify something like that because presumably if they've been in business for that long, there must have some sense, like you say, of people are coming and utilizing my business. I haven't gone out of business, therefore there's some acceptance of me being here, but I can see a lack of recognition from the city, I suppose. Yeah.
So I know there was this interesting story. It was a business owner. He was trying to set up an office in his own little space, and I know the city made it extremely difficult for him to even achieve that. And I know at some part they highly discouraged him from even being there. So the city itself was very, I guess, not encouraging and unwelcoming to this business, and he has been established here for like 10 years now.
Yeah. That's just, it's very interesting how this all plays out, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I'll out myself here a little bit and talk about preconceptions that we have, because I suppose you're going about discovering who these businesses are by what? What's your technique? How do you decide if someone's an immigrant? And I guess that's the question. How do you decide that somebody is an immigrant? What constitutes an immigrant in your
well, we were given a predetermined list by a professor who had done some previous work, and also the city of Urbana, but we have been rejected by a fair number of businesses because we come to them and ask them about, being an immigrant, and you can tell that they tell us they've been here for at least 2 or 3 decades. They don't feel like they're an immigrant, and they're a little bit, put off that we're even asking about that part of their life. So I really do think that even if we do know that they're immigrants, it doesn't necessarily mean that they feel like they're part of, I guess, the immigrant network throughout the community.
Yeah, see, that's how I was going to out myself, because I patronize a business, which I will not name, but the owner and everybody there speaks Spanish, and their whole look to me, I hate even putting it that way because I'm betraying my stereotyping here, but the whole look just doesn't seem Midwestern kind of, it's like, okay, these guys are from somewhere else. So I was talking to the owner at one point and just sort of trying to feel him out, and I was like, so how long have you been in business here? How long have you been around here? And he's like, about X number of years. And so I thought, I'll be clever. I'll say, well, so where were you before that? And he was like, in Chicago. I'm like, so you worked there for a while, and then before that, Texas. So it's like, I am convinced that he's actually from Mexico, but that's not how he was thinking about it. Yeah. And I just didn't want to come out and ask him, aren't you an immigrant? Because we work with immigration. I try not to do that because it's stereotyping. It says, hey, you look like an immigrant, therefore, I'm going to treat you like you're different in some way. And I just couldn't get anywhere near what I was trying to get at with him. So I can relate to what you're saying here, because it's like, even if or if you're fairly sure that somebody's an immigrant, they may not think of themselves that way, because that's sort of, I don't know, what does it imply, like a recent trip or something? You recently came here, or maybe you're not fully American or something. I'm not sure exactly how it would make you think about it, but apparently some people don't think that way about themselves, and I'm not sure how. We tend to lump people together in groups and say, well, everybody who wasn't born in the U.S. is an immigrant, and that may be technically true, but that may not be true in the sense of how they see themselves. So it's kind of an interesting way of looking at it. My own father, for example, came here many years ago, and he first lived in Texas, and so he came from Mexico, and he lived in Texas throughout most of his life. So if you ask him where he's from, he says Texas. That's like, well, no, where were you born? It's like Ciudad Juarez, but you're from Texas because that's where he grew up. That was where he spent the bulk of his life, so that's how he thinks of it. And he's actually touchy about it a little bit, and so it's an interesting thing. Was it a lot of people that you ran into that were uncomfortable with this, or just a couple? Or
I think we've been steadily rejected about 4 or 5 times.
Okay.
And I think also it may not even be that we're asking about their immigration, but also how we've mentioned that people that we've talked to have expressed some of the troubles they've had with city officials as being from the University of Illinois. I think sometimes we come across as sort of just like a public bureaucratic entity that wants to, survey them for census data or something, that we aren't actually interested in what they do. And so I think it's really easy for us to come into a business and just say that we want to survey them and have that not actually come across as what we mean to be doing in class.
So, give me a sample of your approach. If I can't, this is my business. This is my business, actually. And you came in. How do you start the conversation? Just like, hi, I'm a University of Illinois.
Formally introduce ourselves, I guess.
Yeah.
And then we stress that we are students.
Uh-huh.
And then we come from the university, and then we talk to them about the ongoing project. Some of them seem interested, some of them are still like iffy. So I guess at that point of the story, you gotta like reel them in a little bit more.
Yeah. And we usually say that we are doing surveys on immigrant business owners throughout Urbana, and if we can tell, they're a little bit iffy about, focusing on immigration, we can talk about how you're a business owner and how that's, a really amazing thing to have a small business, throughout the recession and everything, and maybe talk to them with it that way. But I do think that it is fairly difficult for us not to come across as just sort of a third party that doesn't really have the business's best interests at heart. And it's sort of hard to relay that, especially if there's a language barrier, that we are trying to do, do work that we're trying to benefit them.
Yeah.
I think that we do stress though is that they don't completely have to fill out all the answers. So if they feel uncomfortable, we can just stop and move on to the next one.
Is there anything you can, I don't know, not promise, that might be too strong a word, but offer them, like, if we get enough responses from this, and we already have a meeting set up with the mayor or whatever, and we should be able to get some concessions or something from them. Is there anything like that you have, or are you warned not to say that because, of course, nothing might happen? You might just gather information and then it just disappear. But
yeah, I think that that would be the normative outcome of what we would like to be able to do, but it is difficult since we are students, and since every business that we talk to does sort of have a different agenda. If they want to see something out of our work that just benefits their business, not like immigrant business owners as a whole, that's very different. So I think it would just change depending on where they're at, if they've just opened or if they're looking to expand.
Yeah. I guess I'm trying to picture, if I were reluctant, I would probably mostly be reluctant because of time. It's like, I'm busy,
absolutely.
I've got a lot to do,
Absolutely.
and I just don't want to mess with this right now. So what's in it for me? What do I get from doing this? Nobody's listened to me so far. I don't see what difference it's going to make if you tell them. I've been telling them this for 16 years, that there's no stop sign at my corner, and they're going to, or whatever. Is it mostly mundane stuff like that? I think somebody else I spoke to said that most of what they'd heard so far was just like, we need more snowplows, or that kind of generic, like it could be anybody, as opposed to this is a problem specific to me because I'm an immigrant. Is it?
Well, I think a lot of the things that we've come across are sort of the minutia throughout the bureaucratic process of opening a restaurant, with getting liquor licenses or things like that. And they might seem like everyday things, but if you do have a language barrier, or if you do have your life savings on the line for trying to start your business, it is more than that. And I think that's what we're really trying to get at here, is that the things that city officials or other business organizations might not consider, they might think of them as very small things, are actually very important to immigrants that are trying to start their own businesses.
It seems like an interesting project. So, like, how far along are you in it? Like, are you on phase 1, or is it divided up that way, or how is it divided up? You're just going to do it till it's done, or are there segments to this process?
Technically, we're still on phase 1. We're still getting our interviews out of the way, and then after that, we're going to discuss it thoroughly with our class. And I guess we compile a list of every single business but not every single, but for the most part, the businesses that we did get to interview.
Okay. That seems interesting.
Yeah, so I think we're going to be compiling it for the Immigration Forum to look at that.
Oh, good.
Throughout, again, the regional areas of Urbana, if most of we have University Avenue, so if most of what we hear is, that their clientele is mostly auto-oriented, that might not just be for immigrant businesses. That's probably for most businesses on University Avenue.
University Avenue. So there's an auto parts store, there's some restaurants. I'm trying to visualize. I just drove down there on the way here tonight, so.
So we have our first stop
Out to Carl.
yeah.
Out around Carl.
From like Carl to, I guess where the 57 hits.
Yeah.
Oh, all the way out there. Okay, so, all right. I know there's 1, 2, 3 restaurants I can think of that. Pawn shop.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see. I have no idea who owns these businesses. I just see them. There's a hospital. They're probably not going there.
No.
Boy, it's funny. You drive down there. Gas stations, I guess.
There's a little grocery store.
Oh, yeah,
no.
yeah. There's a World Harvest or something like that grocery store, and then there's a dog grooming place or something. I don't know. I never remember everything, but so yeah, okay. I've got a sense of, so you just got a list and you just start on one end of the street and go on down and
Yeah, it's very much like, cold calling or anything that you do with sales, which isn't the most exciting work, but hopefully you get people that would want to talk to you.
it's not really that comfortable either, is it? Just
No,
kinda
but it
walk
really
in.
is good experience,
Hi.
especially for us as students, whether it's interviewing or, getting more contact with people. It's a different type of field work that I think is really important that urban planners become comfortable with,
Well, you will be doing things like that in the future, right?
Yeah.
As your job, you'll have to, all right, let's figure out the problems along this area, or we want to put in a new freeway or something, and should we throw all those people out or keep them or whatever, or redevelop, or yeah. Oh, that's interesting. So as urban planners, someone told me that one of the things you're going to have to do is like make reports to the city and things like that. Are you going to be actually doing any of that as a part of this process, or is that not personally, just as a class, or individually standing up in front of the city council and saying
Yeah,
things?
I think that we will, have a list of recommendations that we'll put in place to the specific businesses and also to the community as a whole after we compile everything. So who knows what will happen with that, but
So you're comfortable getting up and public speaking?
yeah, they have us do a lot throughout the program. So
We do present a lot to each other.
Uh-huh. Oh, you like, what is it, Toastmasters or whoever that is, like people who are fear of speaking. So you do that in class? You get up and take turns giving speeches?
For the most part, we either do it individually or we do it as a group. And I know most of our projects are presentations,
Mm-hmm.
so we kind of get a sense of how to work around that.
That's weird, isn't it? Isn't it funny how you can sit here and talk to somebody and it's like perfectly comfortable, and then all it takes is for there to be like 5 to 10 people there on the other end, and suddenly it's really weird. It's like, I can't talk. They're looking at me. I don't know what to do.
yeah, no, most college students say that they hate group work, but I guess we can't really say that since that'll be our career. So
Yeah.
we get good practice, and it really, I think, is very beneficial for us.
I'm pretty comfortable with it now after a few years of doing it, but I remember the first few times it was really hard, and every now and then still there are these just moments of like, this isn't going to, it's like panic, like it's not going to work. I don't know what I'm talking about. I can't, I can't read. Where are my glasses? Whatever the thing is, it's just, it's really, it's strange. I don't know. It must be some kind of instinctive human animal thing that just like fear of groups staring at you or something.
And I'm sure that that's how we are perceived when we go into a business, with 4 of us, come in, whether they're busy or not, if they think we're, potential customers, but we're not, I'm sure that we do seem like we're putting them on the spot
Yeah.
in sort of the same way.
So 4 go together?
Most of the time, between 2
wow.
and 4 of us. So
That's kind of awkward, isn't it?
yeah, I really think it depends on the size of the business,
Like if you have an office, like how do you sit 4 people around your desk, So 2 of them stand and you're just like, God, everybody's like staring down at me here. That's sort of weird. I would think you should go maybe 2 at a time.
Yeah, we've gone in smaller groups and we've made it work, so.
That would be my suggestion if anyone cared what my suggestion was. Don't intimidate people by going in this big group. I demand that you talk to me right. Fill out this piece of paper right now. I want these answers.
Yeah.
You didn't fill out number 5. What? Yeah, that just could be strange. Anyway, I don't know. I suppose you guys know what you're doing. You're the professionals. I just, close. You get paid for this, right?
We wish.
No? Not getting. Oh, that's right. You're paying to do this.
Yeah, we are. We are paying to
I
do
see how that works. Yeah. What a scam. I get you to pay me to do work for me. It's
Pretty
sort of a
much.
Tom Sawyer-ish vibe going on there.
Yeah.
So that's how this university operates. That's how badly in debt they are. They're like getting people to pay them, and they're putting them to work. Anyways, we're getting off track here. That's my fault. I'm sorry. I apologize. That just seems kind of funny. So, immigrant businesses. Was there something about a questionnaire? Okay, you have the basic questionnaire. Do you have another one? It seems like somebody told me something about a second questionnaire that they were filling out. Is that?
Well, we'll have
wrong?
like the basic information. When did you open? Their ethnicity, everything like that. And then we were able to sort of contour our surveys to our specific areas. Like we predominantly have restaurants, and we do have a couple franchises. And franchise ownerships are different, than independently owned businesses. So we have been able to cater them a little bit towards our specific needs.
So I'm crazy about this second questionnaire. I thought there was something on top of the basic questions that you were asking. Well, it sounds like it would be an interesting project overall. Probably a little different than what you might imagine it would be like going into it. Like you'd probably expect there to be a fairly similar set of responses that you would get from people like, no one speaks my language or whatever. And I'm sure there's plenty of that, but I'm betting that there's some surprises in there too along the way. And it probably depends on what part of town you're in too. Because that area there's pretty well established, right? Most of those businesses have been there for a while.
Yeah, and there are some new businesses going up, and it's been it's a big road in town, so I think they get pretty steady business.
What's that big thing they're building on the north side of the street that's just this giant building next to the pawn shop? Is that apartments, or is that going to be a business?
I think everything that's like going up now, I know there are 2 big apartment developments going up, I think.
You want to stretch out the university?
Yeah.
So maybe that'll help with the medical school. I'm guessing.
Okay.
They just approved.
They just did that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But none of this is going to happen by the time
No,
you guys are done.
we'll be long gone, hopefully.
My timer is telling me that we're out of time. Are there any final thoughts that you have before we end the show here about your project or what you're doing? Is something I didn't ask you that you wished I had gotten to?
No, I don't think so. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate you coming by and telling me about this interesting project. I apologize for being scatterbrained. I'm having one of those days. I'm not all there today. But anyway, I thank you so much. You have been listening and or watching, depending on how you do it. CU Immigration here at WRFU LP and UPTV. We appreciate you tuning in. We'll be back next week with more fascinating stuff. I hope that you will join us then. Until then, we'll see you later. Bye-bye.